Hey folks, today we are going to talk about Where Do I Watch That, which is going to cover streaming services, how to find your favorite shows, differences between streaming and cable, things like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So what is streaming TV? So streaming TV allows you to watch shows and movies on demand, typically either via a computer, a smartphone, a tablet, a smart TV, some sort of device that's going to hook up to the internet. The benefits of streaming TV, it's on demand, which means you can watch things at any time. You no longer have to be home Tuesday at exactly 7 p.m. to catch your favorite show. A lot of times, depending on the subscription level, there may be no commercials. Large selection of shows and movies available, and typically lots of backlist titles. So not only are you going to frequently have access to recent episodes of things, but a lot of those older shows and movies that you might want to catch up on or rewatch. Some of the downsides of streaming TV, it might require multiple subscriptions either to various standalone channels or to platforms. It does require an internet connection or data plan. So if you don't currently have internet at home or Wi-Fi, that may be something that you need to add in order to access streaming TV. And items can be added and removed with no warning. The whole idea behind streaming is that you have access to a whole bunch of stuff on demand, but you don't actually own any of it or have kind of a hard copy of any of it. So production companies or platforms or channels can choose to take things away at any time, frequently with no warning. So what's the difference between streaming TV and cable? So streaming ultimately is going to be more flexible. It's going to typically offer a lot of the backlist titles that I mentioned before. You can also watch things on demand. So the scheduling and show availability are both going to be a lot better than you get with cable. Premium channels can be accessed in a variety of ways, allowing you to customize your viewing options. So you can pick and choose the premium channels that you want. Sometimes with cable, you have to bundle all of those things together. Streaming can be, but it's not always cheaper than traditional cable packages. Traditional cable packages are typically going to run you anywhere between like $50 and $100, depending on what sort of customized package you put together for yourself. With platforms and standalone channels, your monthly bill may be much less than that. The other benefit to streaming over cable is that streaming often doesn't require a long-term contract. So with cable, a lot of times you set a contract, usually for at least a year, sometimes up to 3 years, and you're kind of stuck with that. And if you want to cancel it early, there's usually some sort of fee involved. With streaming, that's usually not the case. Streaming you can usually do on a month-to-month basis. So if you want to subscribe to HBO for a month, binge watch your favorite show, and then cancel it, you can. And then 3 months later, if you want to redo it, you can go ahead and do that. So also a lot of flexibility in terms of what you have access to and when. So how can you access streaming services? So your approach to streaming services is going to be standalone channels versus platforms. So a lot of premium channels, HBO, Showtime, Starz, things like that, can be purchased as standalone options through their main site or as an add-on to a platform. So for example, I can go to HBO's website. I can subscribe to HBO Max through the HBO website. I pay my, $10 a month directly to HBO. I have to log in through HBO or the HBO app to access that. The other option is to get a platform, which is going to include a lot of different channels. And so, for example, Hulu. I buy Hulu, I pay Hulu every month for my Hulu subscription, and then I also pay them an extra $10 a month for HBO. I log into Hulu to access my HBO, and everything is done inside of either the Hulu website or the Hulu app. And so that's how you can kind of choose to approach them. You could do standalone, or you can do as add-ons to platforms with a lot of things. And those platforms are going to be more similar to traditional cable. So Hulu is going to have access to shows from Fox, ABC, NBC, CBS, the whole shebang. Similar to like what you would get with a traditional cable channel where you have access to a whole bunch of things. Most platforms are going to include a base level of channels, just like with traditional cable, and then the ability to add on premium channels at an extra cost. So one way or the other, you're going to be paying for these premium channels, just like you would with cable. Most channels and platforms are going to offer different subscription tiers that determine whether or not commercials are included, how many devices can be used to access the service, what specific content can be accessed, so on and so forth. So for example, with Netflix, which is a platform, there's a basic level where you can basically watch whatever you want on Netflix, but you can only do it on one device at a time. They have a secondary level where you can watch on multiple devices at a time. So what that means is, you can be in your living room watching something on Netflix, and then your spouse or your kid or whatever can be in their room watching something else on Netflix at the same time. So you're using two different devices to access the Netflix content, and that usually requires a slightly higher subscription. With Hulu, they have different subscription tiers based on whether or not you want commercials included, so you can pay a few dollars extra, and then there's no commercials. So lots of different options to kind of fit whatever budget you have. So now let's talk a little bit about channel pricing. So as I mentioned before, these standalone channels can be purchased directly through their website, or they can be used as an add-on to a platform. Most of the time, the price is not going to vary by much if you're doing it as an add-on or as a standalone. Sometimes with the standalone, you might be able to get a deal, half price for 3 months or whatever like that, that may not be available when you're doing it as an add-on to a platform. But it just depends on the channel and the platform. So you can see here that pricing, varies a lot. So Showtime is going to be $11 a month, and that's just a flat fee. They have no subscription levels. Whereas with HBO Max, you have $10 a month, but you'll have to have ads in your shows, or $15 a month with no ads. Things like Acorn and BritBox, these are British and Canadian TV shows. They have a flat subscription rate. One of the nice things about something like Acorn is that a lot of times they will do, if you do subscribe for a year, they will give you a discount. So instead of $6 a month for 12 months, you pay like $60 total. So you're basically getting 2 months free. Something like IMDb TV is going to be free, but always with ads. So they've decided that their approach, the easiest option, is to just make everything free and just make all of their money through ad revenue. Peacock is one of those channels where their difference isn't based on commercials, but on content. So with Peacock, you can access their free account, which is going to give you access to a lot of their shows, but there are going to be other shows, typically newer shows, that you can only access if you want to pay that $5 a month for the premium subscription. And again, you can see a lot of sort of difference between how much these things cost, So if you are subscribing to a whole bunch of these, obviously your cost is going to add up pretty quickly. But, if the only thing that you're interested in is HBO Max and Disney Plus, you're at, $25 a month, give or take, plus whatever other platforms you decide to purchase. Now with platform pricing, this is where things start to get a little bit more complicated. So this is not, kind of the end-all be-all of platforms, but this does give you some of the most common ones. So Hulu, $6 a month for ads, $12 a month for no ads. You can see that there's also a Hulu plus a live TV subscription. So Hulu is a traditional platform, very similar to Netflix, where they have a bunch of content. It's not going to be live, so it might take, 1 to 7 days for a new episode of something to pop up. So if you're watching Bob's Burgers, if you had a traditional cable package and you watch that live on Fox, you would see it when it comes out. But then on Hulu, it might take another week before that episode shows up. Same thing with Netflix. Typically the current season of a TV show is not going to be on Netflix. You have to wait until the season is over for it to be available. And so you see that our traditional platforms like this, they're running, $6 a month, $9 a month, $13 a month for Amazon Prime. And then we move into our more live type platforms. So YouTube TV, Sling, Fubo, Philo, and then Hulu plus Live TV. You see that these are all significantly more expensive, and that's because these are much more similar to traditional cable. So you're going to be able to watch things live. So when Bob's Burgers comes on, you can actually log into your Hulu plus Live TV account and go ahead and watch that episode live. And so that's why you're paying $65 a month for that, as opposed to just $6 a month, because you have that live and on-demand access to TV shows. Same thing with like Fubo and Sling. You're going to get very similar to that traditional cable package, where you get a variety of channels, and then you can watch things live plus on demand. Something like Sling, you'll see that there's Sling Orange, Sling Blue, and then a combo for $45. So Sling Orange is going to have one set of channels, Sling Blue is going to have another set of channels, and then you can pay $45 to get all of those combined channels if you want. So if you decide to go this route, it's really important to kind of look around and spend some time figuring out what channels you actually want access to, what you want to be able to watch, when you want to be able to watch it. If you don't care about watching things the day they come out, then one of the cheaper traditional platforms is going to work fine for you. But if you're one of those people that really likes to be able to watch those episodes as soon as they come out and as soon as they're on air, then, one of those slightly more expensive packages might be a better option for you. Even when you're looking at these more expensive packages, like Hulu with Live TV or YouTube TV, they still might be a better option for you than traditional cable packages at a same price, because you're going to have that on-demand option. So a lot of times, again, you just need to kind of look around, read some reviews, check out what channels are offered, and also, look at your cable provider. So if you have internet at home, chances are your internet provider is also going to have the option of providing cable for you. They may be offering a deal that might make them the cheaper option, for the time being at least. So if you are pursuing these live options, do make sure that you are looking at your traditional cable provider anyways, just to make sure you're getting the best deal possible. So where do I watch that? There are so many new and popular shows out, and trying to figure out where you can actually watch something can be kind of a nightmare. You might hear your coworkers or a friend talking about their new favorite show, and maybe you can watch it in a bunch of different places. Maybe you can only watch it in one place. So it's important to kind of look around at these different platforms of these channels to figure out what it is that you're looking for. So Mare of Easttown, I've heard a lot of people talking about recently, is an HBO Max show. So that means you have to have an HBO subscription to watch it. Now, HBO Max, as we'll talk about in a minute, is going to be available in addition on some platforms. So you don't necessarily have to watch it through the HBO website, but you do have to have some sort of HBO Max subscription. Lucifer is now a Netflix-only show. Lucifer and I believe also The Expanse are sort of unique shows because they started out elsewhere and then they were canceled by their original network and then picked up by a different channel. So Lucifer used to be just on regular cable and then it was canceled. Fan demand was really intense, and so Netflix bought the rights to Lucifer and has put out, I think, 2 additional seasons from what was originally happening. Same thing with The Expanse. I believe that was originally on Sci-Fi and got dropped, and so Amazon Prime bought the rights to that, and so then they put out some additional seasons. So again, things that you may have watched in the past may now be available in different places. Things that are available on Netflix, like Lucifer, The Handmaid's Tale on Hulu, Falcon and Winter Soldier, and WandaVision on Disney+. Those are most likely only going to be available on those particular channels because those are either platforms or they're standalones that are not included anywhere else. As far as I know, Disney Plus, you can only get through Disney Plus. It's not available as an add-on anywhere else. Something like Line of Duty you can see is available on Acorn, but it's also available on Hulu and Fubo. So you don't necessarily have to pay for that extra Acorn subscription if you have a subscription to Hulu or Fubo. But again, it might determine when those new episodes are available to you. Now, because this is kind of an ever-moving target on this, I want to take a quick moment to look at a website called realgood.com. So realgood.com is really helpful for figuring out where something is streaming, or if it even is streaming. So it's going to allow you to add your services, and then it will basically tell you what you have access to through those services. Or you can search for a particular show and find out where it is. So if I type in Mare of Easttown, it's going to tell me a whole bunch of different information. So it's got the IMDb rating, which is the Internet Movie Database. If you create an account, you can actually just rank things. Do you love it, like it, dislike it? It's going to give you a little description, and then it's going to tell you where you can watch it. So this says that it's available on HBO Max, and that HBO Max is a subscription. If I look for something a little bit older, so let's do Star Trek. So I can see here all of the different Star Treks, including a animated Star Trek series that I did not even know existed. But we can take a look at, let's see, Star Trek, the animated series back from the 70s. 2 seasons ended. Where it is, it's going to be on Paramount. I can see that it's available on Paramount. Now, if this was something that wasn't available to stream anywhere, it would tell me that. It would say, sorry, this isn't streaming anywhere, not available, you're just out of luck. So that can also be really helpful, because then you don't have to go to every single one of your platforms or channels and search for it to try and figure out what you're doing. The other nice thing about Realgood is that it's going to give you a lot of browsing options as well. So you can look up Emmy nominees, you can look up things by genre, comedy, crime, documentary. Trending TV shows is really nice because it gives you basically a whole bunch of really popular stuff. Loki is coming out, Disney Plus, Sweet Tooth just released on Netflix. And so you can kind of scroll through and see what everybody's watching. Friends has been really popular lately because they're doing that reunion series. And you can see here with Friends, you could watch it on HBO Max, Fubo, TBS, a whole bunch of different places. So I find that Realgood is, kind of an ideal situation. You can also filter down to specific, genres, stuff like that. You can also narrow down by service. So if you're looking and you only want to see things that are on Hulu, because that's where you have an account, you can see all of the most popular stuff that is going to show up on Hulu. So Lego Masters, Line of Duty, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, so on and so forth. And you can see that most of these are also available someplace else, but all of them are at the very least going to be available on Hulu. So this is also a really good website for when you're trying to figure out what service do you want to subscribe to. Go ahead and figure out what Hulu offers, and does it give you enough stuff that you're going to want to watch to make it worth subscribing to that. Now, where do I find that channel? So again, this is one of those things that we talked about earlier where you can add those premium channels on. So HBO Max, Showtime, Acorn, Starz, BritBox, Discovery, IMDb TV, and Paramount are all available as standalone channels, but also someplace else. Amazon Prime Video has a lot of these as add-ons. You can just add those channels. It just charges to your Amazon Prime account every month, and you're good to go. Philo, Sling, Fubo, and YouTube TV. All of those, again, some of those traditional cable type packages also have those premium add-ons. And then you've got Disney Plus down there doing its own thing where it's standalone only. So if you want Disney Plus, no matter what else you subscribe to, you're going to have to go through the Disney site for that. But for most people, that's not a huge deal. And going standalone is sometimes a better option. So I'm one of those people that does. I have my iPad with my 87 different standalone channel apps because I'm just that person. But part of that is because I find that sometimes, like with Acorn, things will show up on Acorn standalone a little bit before they show up on Acorn via Amazon Prime. I've also occasionally in the past had issues with like some episodes being there, but not all of them, or episodes releasing in a weird way when I'm going through like Amazon Prime Video. So part of my preference for standalone channels over adding things to platforms is that I find that the experience and the quality is a little bit more consistent with the standalone. But obviously that doesn't happen with all shows. It's kind of, hit or miss sometimes. So it may just be that the shows that I wanted were not going through to Amazon Prime Video very frequently, but everything else was. So again, just kind of take a look at it, see how you feel about stuff. You can always start something as like an Amazon Prime Video add-on or a Hulu add-on, and then cancel that later and subscribe to the standalone if you find that you're having trouble with anything. And so lots and lots of different options. But I hope this was helpful. Streaming TV is, obviously not going anywhere. And over time, we're going to see more and more of these channels and these options pop up. So it's a good idea to kind of do your research and see what is what. There is a link to a copy of this presentation in the video description. And there is also a link to a Google Doc put together by CNET, where it basically lists all of those traditional cable channels and then tells you different platforms that you can find those on, which I find to be really helpful. But if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out and let us know. Happy streaming!